According to reports, Prince Harry is feeling more isolated than ever. Maybe he should learn how to make sourdough.
Prince Harry is said to be feeling more isolated than ever, like someone standing in a busy room who can't quite find a place to sit. He imagined a quieter life after stepping back, space to breathe, time to be a husband and a father without a press rota dictating every hour. Instead, the days feel like a constant competition with a machine that never sleeps. Not against a person, exactly, but against a brand. Phone calls, planning decks, packaging samples, emails at dawn, meetings that start before breakfast and end long after dark. The distance isn't measured in miles, it's measured in minutes that never line up, in conversations that keep getting postponed until tomorrow. Then the day after that, people close to the couple say the rhythm inside the house has changed. Mornings start before sunrise. The day is carved into calls, sign-offs, approvals, and urgent quick checks that somehow swallow entire afternoons. If help is offered, it's often waved away. "I'll handle it" becomes a mantra, and perfectionism becomes a habit. The pressure binds everyone to a standard that's hard to meet, and even harder to sustain. For Harry, the effect is simple. He's there, but he's not in it. He moves through rooms where decisions were already made, shows up to moments that have already moved on. He still keeps a hand in the causes that shaped him, and those connections matter. But the cadence isn't what it once was, and the gaps in between are longer, quieter, and heavier. What he misses most are the small things that never made headlines. The late breakfast that turns into a conversation, the spontaneous school run, a walk without a clock attached. He jokes that he needs to book time like anyone else trying to get on the calendar. It lands as humor in public, but in private, it stings. Jokes, after all, are often the safest way to state a grievance without starting a fight. Observers outside, the walls see their own pattern in this. When a new venture is teased and then stalls, when a product appears and then disappears, when a rollout feels rushed or an edit looks unfinished, the public draws conclusions. Some say the hustle is undeniable but the follow-through uneven. Others argue that building anything meaningful is messy by definition. What's certain is that the mismatch between noise and results fuels the critics and frustrates anyone inside the room who wants less drama and more delivery. It makes Harry's struggle easier to imagine. He doesn't want less ambition. He wants more presence, more predictability, more proof that the life they promised each other still has a seat at the table. Part of the conflict is cultural. Harry was raised inside a system of bells and timetables where days were mapped in advance and obligations were measured in ceremonies, not metrics. You show up at this hour, you say these words, you leave when the car door closes. There's comfort in that kind of structure, even when it's suffocating. The entrepreneurial world is different. There are no fixed edges, no workday that ends because the clock says so. Priorities shift at 2 a.m., and success means catching the shift before anyone else. Marrying those two worlds is harder than it looks. One trains you to keep your head down and your schedule steady. The other demands that you make yourself available to chaos and call it strategy. And then there's the question of how much two people need to do together in order to feel together. In the beginning, time was guarded like a keepsake. Trips taken as a team, projects presented as a pair, communications signed in both names. Lately, the signature line feels like a dividing line. One side builds momentum, the other tries to keep a home steady and a sense of self intact. If distance grows from an inch to a yard, resentment fills the space in between. It doesn't arrive like thunder. It accumulates like dust, quietly, invisibly, until one day you draw a finger down the mantle and realize how much has settled. Public appearances add another layer. When one face is front and center and the other is glimpsed only in passing, an EBT, aside, a joke, a cutaway, it tells a story whether anyone intends it or not. Audiences notice absence as much as presence. They notice when a partner is framed as a punchline instead of a participant, when a voice we expected to hear is missing from the conversation. The camera doesn't lie, but it does choose, and those choices shape the narrative that echoes back into the house. Where is he? What is he doing? Is he pulling back or being pushed to the margins? The practical problems feel small in isolation, but heavy in aggregate. A product image that lingers in placeholder mode, a site that loads with temporary graphics, a promised launch that needs an awkward clarification. Each little wobble tightens the scrutiny. Online, the audience keeps a ledger, promises in one column, outcomes in the other, and the math becomes unforgiving. Inside a marriage, that same math becomes emotional. How many nights in a row did dinner go cold on the table? How many times did a conversation get rescheduled, then rescheduled again, until the point of it evaporated? Harry is said to ask not for miracles, just for time that isn't always at risk of being cancelled. That ask meets an equally powerful need on the other side. To prove that a vision can stand on its own. To build something that doesn't depend on a title or an introduction. To deliver at a level that silences doubt. The pressure of outside judgment doesn't just push, it defines. It says, work harder, finish sooner, be perfect. It's no wonder, then, that delegation feels dangerous. If your name is on the box, your hand wants to touch every seam. But that instinct, unchecked, cuts a partner out of the process and converts love into logistics. Give me a task isn't the same as let me in. There's a path forward that other couples have found, and it isn't glamorous. It involves lanes, boundaries, and rules that seem trivial until they save the day. Protected hours when no one takes calls. Shared rituals that hold their spot on the calendar like a state occasion. Weekly dinners, device-free mornings, weekends carved into stone instead of penciled around emergencies. It requires a different kind of ambition. The ambition to keep a marriage boring in the best way. To chase steadiness with the same energy you chase scale. The irony is that this discipline doesn't block growth. It enables it. When the home base is solid, you can take bigger swings without breaking the bat. Harry's frustration, if accurately described, is less about jealousy than about erosion. He watched his old life, its architecture, its duties, its guardrails, fall away by choice. Freedom was the point. But freedom without design is just drift, and drift is lonely. He believed independence would mean family on his terms. Instead, he's learning that independence also means responsibility for the shape of every day. If he doesn't set it, someone else will, usually the loudest priority, not the most important one. The same lesson sits on Meghan's desk from a different angle. Control is powerful until it becomes a choke point. Perfection without rhythm leaves beautiful pieces and no symphony. None of this is unique to them, of course. Many households run on mismatched clocks. One partner sees the horizon, the other sees the next hour. One speaks in visions, the other speaks in calendars. The danger isn't that either is wrong, it's that neither can hear the other over. The noise. To fix it, you don't need a rebrand, you need a reset. Name the non-negotiables. Decide what success looks like in the living room, not just the boardroom. Make the trade-offs explicit. This launch buys us this week. This week buys us this weekend. Build the year like a chessboard, not a fire drill. If they can do that, the storyline changes. The brand doesn't become the villain. The marriage doesn't become the casualty. Presence and momentum stop competing and start alternating like breath. The public will still speculate, because that's what the public does. But the speculation won't pierce as deeply if the private reality is solid. Distance will still try to creep in, but it will have fewer places to hide. The calendar, not the critics, will write the story, and the calendar will be kinder. And if they can't, then the schedule will keep winning. The jokes about booking a slot will harden into habit. The small moments will keep getting traded away for the urgent, and the urgent will keep multiplying. He will continue to wonder when his family time arrives for real, not as a makeup meeting. She will continue to wonder why excellence doesn't feel like enough. They will both be right and both be unhappy. That's the quiet tragedy of modern ambition. Not that it breaks things loudly, but that it steals things softly. 10 minutes here, an evening there. One more promise to circle back when the inbox clears. It never clears. The only answer is to defend what matters with the same intensity used to build what matters. To look at each other across a busy room and pick a table first before the world rushes in with its 1,000 tiny requests. Because in the end, being together is a choice made daily, not a circumstance granted by geography or good intentions. For Harry, the choice looks like learning a new kind of discipline. Less ceremony, more structure. Fewer public gestures, more private consistency. For Meghan, it looks like trusting the team and letting go of the last 2% that only she can see. For both, it looks like remembering why they took the risk in the first place. Not to become busier versions of their old selves, but to live a life with more agency and more meaning. If they can still say that together, then the distance can shrink. If they can't, then the house will stay crowded with plans and strangely empty of time. Independence was the promise. Compromise is the price. Pay it together, and the future still opens. Pay it separately, and the future starts to split. The work now is not to win an argument or quiet a headline. It's to protect the center of the story from the edges that keep fraying. That work won't post well, won't trend, won't look glamorous, but it will last. And maybe, just maybe, lasting is the one result that would silence everything else.